Let's talk about how and why we use citators to update cases. A case is like a snapshot of a moment in time. 100 years from now, the cases will look the same even if the law has changed. When reading cases, we need context in addition to the unchanged language of those decisions to know if the case's decision has been overruled, narrowed, or reinterpreted in later cases. Tools called citators provide that additional context. A citator is a catalog list of cases, statutes, and other legal sources showing the subsequent history and current precedential value of those sources. Citators allow researchers to verify the authority of a case and to find additional sources relating to a given subject. There are two main citators, Keysight on Westlaw and Shepherd's on Lexis. Bloomberg also has a citator called bcite, but we won't cover that much today. When you're working with citators, it's important to focus your attention first on the negative material. This may seem counterintuitive, since of course you want more materials that support your argument. If you miss a case that supports your argument when using a citator, that's disappointing. But if you miss a case that invalidates your argument, that can be embarrassing and undermine your credibility with a court. So it's always important to focus on the negative treatment most closely. In this video, we'll work through common questions related to citators so you can make the best use of them. We'll consider questions like, what does a caution symbol really mean? Can I ever use a case that's been overruled? Why might Keysight and Shepherd's come to different conclusions about a case's validity? Do I have to look at everything to know if my case is still good law? And can I really trust these tools? If you're looking for details about navigating Westlaw or Lexis, both companies provide materials and instructions on using their tools, linked from our Legal Research Strategy Guide. Let's get started. Do I have to look at everything to know if my case is still good law? It depends. Here's how I would decide to apportion my time. There are cases that I may rely on heavily in my argument, and others that receive only a passing mention. For cases I rely on heavily, yes, I'd look at almost everything. All the negative treatment in my jurisdiction for sure, as well as any that distinguish, caution, limit, narrow, etc. the opinion. I might even look at negative treatment outside of my jurisdiction a little bit as well. If it's an old opinion and every other jurisdiction around has criticized the opinion heavily, I'll probably want to have an answer for that. I'd also look at the positive stuff in my jurisdiction. Maybe there are a bunch more cases that would bolster my argument, and one of those cases may have better facts than the one I'm currently looking at. For cases that receive only a passing mention in my writing, I may look at only the negative treatment in my jurisdiction to make sure the case has not been overruled or narrowed or distinguished in such a way that it excludes my facts. For the sake of time, though, I probably won't delve into the neutral or positive or get into what's happening in other jurisdictions. But it's not an either-or, it's more of a spectrum. The more I rely on a case, the more heavily I'll vet it. The less I rely on a case, the more comfortable I am just making sure it's good law in my jurisdiction. What does a caution symbol really mean? A caution symbol is represented in Westlaw as a yellow flag and in Lexis as an orange box with a Q inside or a yellow triangle. These caution symbols mean that a case has received negative treatment, but that the opinion has not been overruled. What does that really mean, though? What does negative but not overruled actually look like? Let's explore that further. Many cases that are connected to your case in the citator will have an editorial phrase assigned by Westlaw or Lexis explaining the relationship between the two cases further. This is a good first place to get a sense of why you should feel cautious about using that precedent. Use the worksheets in our Legal Research Strategy Guide for definitions of all the editorial phrases. Different treatment by later courts will impact how a judge views earlier precedent, so it's important to be prepared to address these issues when you're making an argument as to whether an earlier precedent applies in your case. Is it ever appropriate to use a case that's been overruled? The answer here is yes, but rarely and with caution. Cases often have multiple legal questions. Those questions might involve different areas of substantive law as well as questions regarding jurisdiction. If your case has been overruled on a point of law that's unrelated to the one that got you interested in the case, it might be possible to use that information. You'll just have to explain that the case was overruled on unrelated grounds and explain why the original ruling on your point of law is still relevant. Why might Keysight and Shepherds classify a case differently? Keysight and Shepherds are tools built by people. Often, determining the treatment of a case is the matter of some interpretation. Different editors and different algorithms may come to different conclusions. Often, Keysight and Shepherds will even include different cases in the result sets. This is not to say that one is better or worse, they're just two different tools doing the same job as best they can. If you have a list of 5 to 10 cases, let's say, that are at the crux of your argument, check them out on both Keysight and Shepherds to be sure that the two services agree on the treatment of that case. This will both give you peace of mind and increase the likelihood that you've seen everything relevant. This probably isn't necessary for every case you cite, however. Can I really trust these tools? As much as you can trust anything. Is it possible that something will be missed? Theoretically, but citators are the best and only tool around to do the kind of work that you need to do. Lawyers relied on Shepherd's citator service in books long before the internet. Not only that, but failing to use a citator to validate your cases can be a breach of the rules of professional conduct and undermine your credibility as a lawyer. So make sure that you take the time to do this and to do it correctly. If you have questions on this or other subjects, please ask us.